What is forensic psychology? The complete introduction. Welcome to MindCrime. Most people have heard the term forensic psychology, but very few people actually understand what it means in practice. What forensic psychologists actually do day to day in real legal and criminal justice systems. Popular media has given us a very specific and very distorted image. The brilliant investigator who reads a crime scene and delivers a perfect psychological portrait. The dramatic courtroom moment, the profiler who cracks the case alone. Reality is far more complex, far more nuanced, and actually far more interesting. It is deeply rooted in science, in clinical practice, and in a serious engagement with some of the most difficult questions the legal system has to face. Today, we are starting from the beginning, the complete introduction to forensic psychology. Forensic psychology sits at the intersection of two disciplines: psychology, the scientific study of human behavior, mental processes, and emotional functioning, understanding why people think, feel, and act the way they do, and law, legal systems, criminal justice procedures, court processes, and the rights of individuals within those systems. Where these two meet, that is forensic psychology. It applies psychological knowledge, clinical expertise, and research methodology to legal and criminal justice contexts. The word forensic itself tells us something important. It comes from the Latin word forensis, meaning of or belonging to the public forum. In ancient Rome, the forum was the central public space where legal debates were held, where cases were argued, where justice or the attempt at it was conducted publicly. Forensic, therefore, simply means pertaining to legal proceedings. Forensic psychology is psychology applied to legal proceedings. That etymology matters because it grounds the discipline in its essential function: psychology in service of justice. Let's go through the major areas of what forensic psychologists actually do. Area 1: Criminal profiling and behavioral analysis. This is what most people think of first, and it is a legitimate and important part of the field. Creating psychological portraits of unknown offenders through behavioral pattern analysis, crime scene evidence, and victimology. Using the evidence of how a crime was committed to infer who committed it, their psychology, their characteristics, their likely background. We have covered this in depth in a previous episode, and it remains one of the most publicly recognized applications of forensic psychology. Area 2: Competency and sanity evaluations. And this is critically important in the legal system. Courts regularly need answers to psychological questions that judges and lawyers cannot answer themselves. The first is competency to stand trial. Does this defendant understand the charges against them? And can they meaningfully assist their legal counsel in their own defense? If a person is so severely mentally ill that they cannot understand what is happening to them in court, proceedings with a trial raises profound questions of justice. The second is the insanity defense. Was this defendant legally insane at the time they committed the offense? Not mentally ill in general terms, but specifically incapable of understanding the nature or wrongfulness of their action at that specific moment. Forensic psychologists conduct extensive mental state evaluations and present their findings as expert witnesses. They translate clinical psychological findings into terms and frameworks the legal systems can work with. Area 3: Risk assessment. This is one of the most consequential applications in the entire field. Forensic psychologists evaluate individuals to assess their likelihood of future violent behavior. And these assessments directly influence some of the most significant decisions the justice system makes. Violence risk prediction. How likely is this person to commit a violence act if released? Recidivism likelihood. How probable is it that this person will reoffend? Parole suitability. Is this individual safe to release into the community? Sentencing recommendations. Does the psychological profile of this person warrant particular consideration in how they are sentenced? These are not abstract academic exercises. These assessments affect real people's life, both the individuals being assessed and the community they may return to. Area 4: Victim Assessment and Support. Forensic psychology is not only focused on offenders. Victims of crime also require psychological expertise, and forensic psychologists play a vital role in this area as well. Trauma evaluation, assessing the psychological impact of crime on a victim, documenting the harm that has been done, which matters both therapeutically and legally. Court preparation, helping victims understand what to expect and prepare them to testify effectively, which can be an enormously stressful and re traumatizing experience without proper support. And ongoing therapeutic support. Because the psychological consequences of being a victim of crime do not end when the legal processes end. Area 5: Investigative Psychology. This branch was developed significantly by British psychologist David Cantor, a pioneer who applied rigorous scientific and empirical research methods to the study of criminal behavior. Investigative psychology looks at the behavioral signatures of crimes, patterns in how, where, and against whom crimes are committed, and applies statistical analysis to the data. It examines geographic patterns, where killers operate relative to where they live in. It studies interpersonal dynamics in offending behavior. It looks for behavioral consistency across crime series. The goal is to make criminal investigations more scientific, to replace intuition and experience with empirically validated, systematically applied methodology. And last, Area 6: Jury Consultation. Forensic psychologists are sometimes engaged by legal terms to assist in the jury selection process. Understanding how psychological factors, bias, background, personality, attitudes towards authority affect how individual jurors process evidence and reach verdicts is a legitimate and important application of psychological expertise. And beyond these areas, forensic psychologists conduct ongoing academic research that advances the entire field. They contribute to criminal justice policy. They design and evaluate rehabilitation programs. They train law enforcement. The discipline is vast, it is rigorous, it sits at the center of some of the most difficult questions our legal systems face. Questions about mental health, moral responsibility, justice, and human nature. That was your complete introduction to forensic psychology. Subscribe to MindCrime for weekly deep dives into this fascinating field. I will see you in the next one.